All right, guys, today we talk about your new favorite topic, the demand gen, right? So I was kind of forced to do a video about it because it's ridiculous lately how much attention this campaign type gets and how much overhype there actually is about what it is, how it works, and generally speaking, a lot of misinformation about what this campaign type is, where it comes from, what it's doing, and why you should or shouldn't implement it, right? And now it's the question, oh, Chris, why should we listen to you about demand gen, right? Like, who is this Chris guy and what do I know about demand gen? So just to give you a quick backstory of me, I'm doing Google Ads for around 5 years already. So almost a proper veteran and managed a shitload of clients, over 200 million in revenue generated with Google Ads alone. And I want to tell you a little story. So when I started with Google Ads back then, it was in 2021. I was one of the first guys in November 2021 when BMax got rolled out. I was one of the first guys to actually properly test it and implement it. Right, so BMax was quite new back then. Now it's pretty mainstream. Everybody uses BMax for shopping, right? BMax Fit only, BMax this, BMax that. It's not new anymore. Back then it was super new. It was the shiny object, and I was one of the first guys to actually implement it in the agency back then, testing all kinds of new stuff. Before it was even a thing, right? I was experimenting with different product segmentations, performance split very early on, and also held presentations about BMax in the agency. And why am I telling you this? I thought this whole video is about demand gen, right? And not BMax. And we are not going to talk about BMax, but there's one interesting insight about this story. I held my presentations and I dove into BMax when it was quite new, again in November 2021. And the interesting part about this, because now demand gen gets overhyped as this new thing, right? BMax got rolled out and demand gen was already there for ages, right? So you have to understand this is not a new campaign type. That's the first thing we start with, right? Demand gen is not new. It's actually super old already. And let me show you that. All right, look at this. Discovery Ads launch date, right? And why Discovery Ads? I have to mention that real quick. So before it was called demand gen, and we'll go through the whole history, what it is and why it is what it is in a second, right? But before it was called demand gen, it was called Discovery Ads. And look at this. Google Discovery Ads were first announced at Google Marketing Live. This is basically a Google marketing event where they showcase new features, what's coming, etc. Doesn't matter. In May 2019, right? And then there was a period of beta testing, stuff like that. But basically in May 2020, this campaign type was live in pretty much all of the accounts, right? I wasn't even in Google Ads when this campaign type was already here, right? So this is the first thing I want you to keep in mind, because now it's oh, demand gen, Chris, have you ever heard about this? It's this new thing. We should test it in the accounts, right? Demand gen, yeah. Very new campaign type. It's not fucking new, dude. It's 6 years old already, right? This thing was here already before I even started with Google Ads. Even BMax is way newer, and BMax is also not new anymore, right? It's here again since November 2021. This was here 1 year early already. And before we dive into it, and I will explain to you in detail what Discovery Ads are and everything, you have to understand, in the beginning it was absolutely shit. Nobody used it. Discovery Ads was kind of setting up an awareness campaign on Meta without Pixel, right? It was basically just burning through budget. It was something in the upper funnel, it had no maturity to it. It didn't really work. It was still very early on, right? It was just something nobody even touched that. And it went through a lot of adjustment and even rebranding with the name and everything that I will also show you. That happened in 2023 already, right? I think it was, it was definitely, it was a bit of a adjustment period, but I think it was also mid 2023, doesn't matter. Basically it went through a rebranding, right? You can check it yourself. And then it was called demand gen with some adjustments in terms of features and possibilities. But basically, I will show in a second, complete rebranding. Anyway, the interesting question now is what is this campaign type in the first place, right? Why did Google roll it out and how does it benefit you? Why should it try that? Why should it test it? Should it even test it in the first place? Why is it interesting, right? And basically discovery ads, and I will show you in a second, is the name already tells it. It's like a campaign type for people who are in the discovery stage, right? I will show you in terms of a funnel how it looks like, but that's the key thing, right? The game is in the name, basically. It's a discovery ad for people who are in the discovery phase. And you had 3 placements available, which was basically YouTube ads, video ads, then the Google Discover feed on the Google app on your phone, right? So this is a mobile placement, and then email marketing via Gmail. So that's it. And let me draw that in a neat funnel, basically, so you can imagine how it looks like, where these ads are active, and also why Google is pushing that in the first place, right? Also with the rebranding and everything. All right, so to understand what demand gen is doing, or discovery ads back then, and why Google is pushing it so much as well, is you have to understand Google has always been extremely good at targeting people here in the lower funnel, right? With search ads, with shopping ads, where people are actually looking for something specific, with specific keyword, with buying attention. They're looking for your product, they're looking for your solution. Google Ads has always been kind of like the king of that, right? With shopping ads, with search ads. Like you cannot do that on TikTok, you cannot do that with Meta. Google was always really, really effective with that. And that's what we love about shopping ads, right? That's why shopping ads are super profitable, have a good ROAS. They're obviously also super competitive. I mean, this market segment is always the most competitive because everybody obviously wants to be there, right? But Google had a big problem. It was not really good in the rest of the funnel, right? Compared to Meta. With Meta, you can be here quite effectively. You can be in the middle of the funnel quite effectively. And you can also launch very effective upper funnel campaigns regarding, depending on the awareness stage and the evolution of your brand, right? But you can basically do the whole funnel thing with Meta quite effectively. And Google was just very, very aggressive and also really, really good, but only in this part of the funnel, right? But that's also a problem, right? Because if you're only in this small portion of the market, but this is the whole market segment, it's like, okay, how can we grab market shares from Meta here? How can we push more into that direction? And you have to think about it. I mean, Google owns YouTube for quite some time, right? And YouTube also has a lot of users. YouTube is search engine as well, but YouTube is also kind of like a social media platform, right? Where people are browsing, looking for specific things. And this is basically Google's entry to, go more in that direction and go more in that direction, right? And that's why Google is pushing it so aggressively, because they own that market segment. They're very strong there. They make a lot of profit there. Like everybody knows that. That's not a secret. But how can they go more into this effectively, right? And provide good solutions for advertisers as well. And that's how discovery ads got launched and pushed very aggressively. Let me pick another color to target this segment. People who are in the middle of the funnel, in the discovery phase, and now with YouTube, the discovery placement, and Gmail, you can show your ads there as well, right? That was the whole idea, basically to unlock a different market segment aggressively and show ads for that stage as well, because you can do that with YouTube, etc. The only problem here was, though, the whole plan didn't really work. The campaign type was shit, like I told you. It was immature. It was mostly known as a waste of money. Even YouTube itself, back then, and even now, it's not like this typical social media platform, right? Where you spend a lot of time on it compared to Instagram or TikTok. YouTube is great. I love YouTube, right? But you go there for sometimes with specific intent. So it's still more of a search engine than a social media platform. That's also why Google tried to launch Shorts, right? They want to go more aggressively into this social media game and be a proper competitor to Instagram, TikTok, and whatsoever. But they never really worked out too well, and they're still struggling with that, right? But that's also one of the reasons why discovery ads became demand gen. It was a rebranding, like giving it some fresh air, completely wiping out what didn't work before, because again, discovery ads were a flop, right? And then they tried to rebrand it and giving it a cool name instead of discovery ads. It's now demand generation, right? Like you can generate demand, like way fucking cooler name. It's not about like, oh, people are discovering something here. Like, no, you're generating demand now, right? It's just about like the wording and framing of things. But it's basically the same campaign type. It obviously came with some new features, different targeting options, reporting options. And I was quite curious as well, right? And I gave it another shot later on myself. And this is also a key thing I want to mention in this video. I'm not an enemy of demand gen at all. I love demand gen actually, and we use it quite a bit in our agency. What I don't like though is a lot of misinformation and people praising it as this holy grail when they don't even understand what it is in the first place and how it works, right? But that said, I'm not an enemy of demand gen. I actually love it quite a bit. And some of my biggest success stories or testimonials you see on my website or Instagram in the highlights as well usually had a heavy demand gen aspect as well. For example, one of my first big famous success stories, a lot of people noted as well, was like House of Gentlemen back then, right? And that was also when we heavily implemented demand gen again, because I tested a lot with it. That was in Q4 2023. After the rebranding already, like you see, right? We discussed the timelines before and we had a great shopping basis already. And especially for Q4, I needed more, right? To get the most out of it. And that's where I also heavily implemented demand gen. And I think we had a split of like 60, 70% shopping and around like 30, not 40%, closer to 30% demand gen, right? But we had huge demand gen campaigns, big creative testing, and that helped with the growth of it. Last year, it was a little bit less demand gen for me. I focused more on shopping and different kind of placements. We even implemented Pinterest or meta ads to the funnel instead of focusing more on demand gen. This year for Q2, especially for Q2 and Q4 later on, especially when demand is high, right? Like those mid-funnel or more in the upper funnel campaign work really well because like the buying into this is way higher. So the timing also matters, right? But again, I'm not an enemy of demand gen. Like as a matter of fact, in the last couple of weeks, I spent insane amount of resources and time and energy myself to build new demand gen processes, new creative processes, also with heavy deployment of AI. So we have great demand gen processes ready for our agencies and for our bigger clients this year, especially for Q2. And again, later for Q4, this will be a big biller for us again for our bigger stores, right? Because that's where demand gen can be really, really effective if you know what you're doing. Just as a key statement here, not an enemy of demand gen at all, right? We should talk about now, okay, when should you use demand gen? Who is it for and when should you try and test it? Because you should have understood by now already. The brands that are winning with demand gen aren't winning because of demand gen. They're winning because they have a solid foundation, they have winning products, they have a good offer that works most likely very well in the lower funnel already. And then they move up and push more, right? Because again, shopping is pull marketing, search is pull marketing. Maybe they do a lot of meta already, but then if you want to like reach the next level on Google, you kind of have to go there, right? But it doesn't make sense to start out there. So again, the brands that are winning with demand gen and most of the case studies and people that you see on social media are either just like jumping on the hype train or have this foundation in place already. So demand gen works for them in the first place. So again, this is vital. Most of the success stories that you see out there circulating are mostly from brands that already have a strong brand equity, awareness, scaling, and growth phase anyway in the first place, right? So this is correlation versus causation. Can't even fucking speak. But this is a relevant aspect, right, that nobody talks about. So like, it's not a magic hack. And again, you need this foundation in place. Another thing for demand gen, you need to have strong quality creatives, right? You can run it with feed only as well. And we do that too. But also if you really want to unlock further growth, you need high, because why would you run a feed only campaign in the middle of the funnel if you can do the same with shopping, right? In the bottom of the funnel where you can do it way more effectively. Just doesn't make sense. And again, if you want to unlock further growth with it, you need great creative processes, you need high quality creatives, video assets or image assets. Both can work quite well depending on the niche as well. We run both in the end. We run feed only with demand gen. We run image creatives, we run video ads, right? Like all of them work. Nothing is better than the other. It just depends on what's best for you in your specific case. And again, you need to have a proven foundation, a solid foundation, proven offer. If you try with your shitty setup, right, and you're like, oh, Meta ads don't work for me, shopping ads don't work for me, but I saw on social media demand gen is the new secret hack, I will launch it, I will surely get rich from that, right? No, if you launch demand gen with your shitty setup, you will just accelerate your shitty results even further on demand gen that burns even more budget for you because it's less performance oriented, it has quite a long learning phase, and needs a lot of budget to go out of the learning phase in the first place. So if you do that with your shitty foundation, you just accelerate your shitty results. I hope that's clear. So that's another thing, right? Besides creatives, you also need a lot of data in the account in order for it to work really well. Because for example, first of all, to have a mature pixel, a mature tag, right? A lot of data. And also for the targeting. Like targeting works quite well for demand gen. We usually run a mix of open targeting or optimized targeting, broad targeting if you want so, right? Where we don't restrict it, but we also test very heavily with relevant lookalike audiences. You can do that with demand gen, works extremely well if you have the data, right? Our top in-market audiences and also like certain custom segments based on our top converting search terms from the search campaigns and from our shopping campaigns. Right? So I have a huge data advantage there already because I know exactly what's working, and then I can take that, create relevant audiences around that, and then push more in this mid-funnel section, right? If you are just like, nothing is working for me, let's just launch a random broad campaign with some shitty creative because shopping is quite a pain in the ass for me. Oh, demand gen surely will work for me, right? Yeah, I'm sure, bro. Try that. Try that and let me know how it goes. All right, to slowly wrap it up here, when to use demand gen now? For real, right? Again, only introduce demand gen when you tackle that lower funnel first, because you probably don't have huge budgets. You probably want to see some profits quickly, right? And you still have the highest likelihood of success with search shopping first on Google side of things. Even meta ads, right, have quite performance oriented, not campaign types, but you can be very focused on the ROAS. They are right with the campaigns. So focusing basically on the lower funnel first makes more sense. And once that's maxed out and profitable, you have some momentum, you have the data, you have quality creatives ready, or you're willing to invest in this creative process so you can get it up and running, go into demand gen. And another thing, you also have to be willing to look at it from a blended ROAS perspective, right? Or marketing efficiency ratio, because of the fact that it's more in the upper funnel side of things. And you have to be careful with the attribution in general, right? A lot of people look at the demand gen campaign and they just look at the ROAS, and either they have a lot of retargeting or over attribution. And then there's the other side of things who don't understand that you cannot like compare the ROAS of a demand gen campaign with the ROAS of your shopping campaign that's purely in the lower funnel, right? Because again, you're trying to generate demand here. You're targeting people in this discovery phase. And if you really want to see success with it, and also like bigger brands that are using it well, they don't look at the ROAS of the demand gen campaign in an isolated fashion and be like, oh, it has a ROAS of 2 or whatever, and like it's good or not good. You have to look more at the overall efficiency of it, right? Does it contribute to growth? Does it also like fuel my lower funnel campaigns effectively, right? So you want to look at the overall uplift. It's a way more complex process in terms of like how you look at the data, instead of just like, oh, I have one campaign here, ROAS, good, profit sheet, good, happy, right? Doesn't work like that anymore. If you have multiple campaigns in different awareness stages, potentially on different channels, it becomes a way, way more complicated data analytics task for you. And again, you have to be willing to endure a longer testing phase there as well. That said, disclaimer, it is possible you can start with demand gen, right? I'm not stopping you. You can start with demand gen and potentially see some good results with that campaign tab as well. With zero data, starting from scratch, no meta ads, no shopping. You can start with demand gen and you potentially see good results. I'm not saying that's impossible. There are people out there who did that before. The question is, why would you even start with an inferior campaign type in the first place if you can start on Meta, with shopping, with search. Because again, key thing, those brands that are winning with demand gen right there and even launch it from scratch and get it profitable, they could probably do 10 times better on Meta, or if they do shopping in addition to it, right? So again, they are not winning because of demand gen. They are winning because they have a proper foundation in place, a proper winning offer. If you combine that well with shopping ads or with Meta ads in the right way, then you get like 10x more out of it. So it's simply stupid to just run demand gen alone, isolated, nothing else. Like it's a weird social media thing right now, and it's honestly like pissing me off a little bit because it doesn't make sense anymore with demand gen. All right, so again, to wrap it up for today, demand gen isn't bad, right? I'm not an enemy of demand gen at all, not at all. But there's a big misunderstanding right now in the ecom community on social media overall that I don't get. It's like the misunderstanding that it's a new thing when it's around for 6 years already. It's this misunderstanding that it's some sort of untapped magic hack that nobody's aware of yet, right? And if you launch there, it's like instant money printer. Not the case, and you will realize that most people will have difficulties in like getting demand gen up and running profitably because they don't understand the principles and the history and everything I explained in this video, right? Because they think like it's some sort of magic hack, nobody does it, super cheap traffic, you launch it and you get instant money printer at home. The key differentiator, it's not this magic hack or this magic bill, it's a scaling tool, right? If you have the foundation in place already, if you nailed shopping, search, Meta ads, and you're looking for the next step, then demand gen can be an absolute game changer, especially when demand is high during like peak seasons in Q2 or peak seasons in Q4. And again, me myself invested a lot in upgrading new demand gen processes. I created a shitload of SOPs for my team lately so we can launch good demand gen processes, especially relevant for Q4 this year. So it is relevant. We will use it heavily for scaling, but it's not a magic hack or some sort of untapped secret that nobody knows about. And you might see it yourself if you try to just randomly launch it as a replacement of shopping ads or Meta ads, whatever. You will see it. That said, test it out yourself. You should always test and verify things if you want to. If you don't qualify, if you don't have the criteria in place that I outlined in this video as well, in terms of having a mature account, having the data, having the creative processes ready, then most likely you would just waste a lot of budget. Anyway, that's it for today. Let me know how it goes, or if you had different experiences with demand gen. Curious to hear that. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today.